Do you ever wonder what would happen if you made one small change in your day? Took a left turn instead of a right, woke up early instead of sleeping in, or maybe that competition you lost. Instead, everything went your way. On today's podcast, I had the opportunity to speak one-on-one with Antivist, a member of Clan Elysium, which is a clan that holds a number of high-ranking Day 1 placements in Destiny 2, and most notably the Garden of Salvation World's First title. Knowing Elysium's resume, I was not surprised to hear about how competitive they were in the raids following their Garden win. What did surprise me is how close they came to potentially stopping the Clan Elysium Dynasty in its tracks before it ever came to fruition. Ascend was World's First to reach final stand on Rolk and Vow the Disciple, but unfortunately for them, they were unable to clear the raid on that attempt. Elysium took advantage of this situation and they defeated Rolk on their very next attempt, taking home back-to-back World's First titles and solidifying their name as one of the top teams to ever compete in Day 1 raids in Destiny. This has only been further solidified by Elysium's World's First in Kingsfall, Crota's End, and now the epic version of Desert Perpetual. This podcast was recorded before the epic raid race, and the entire time I watched the race, I couldn't help but wonder, what could have been? Had Ascend claimed this victory, that would have given them 2 impressive wins on brand new raids, along with a top 10 finish in Deepstone Crypt to boot. But that didn't happen. And in this conversation, we break down what it looks like to reach the pinnacle of your craft, to continue to chase that level to never quite reach it again, and the fulfillment you can find from chasing your goals with some of your closest friends. I want to give a big shout out and thank you to Antivist for taking time to chat with me in this podcast, and I hope you all enjoy our conversation. Welcome everyone to a bonus episode of This Week in Destiny Rising. Today I have this special opportunity to talk to a mainstay of the Destiny raiding scene. Along with his clanmates from Ascend, this gamer has reached some heights most players only ever dream of, competing heavily in nearly every Day 1 Destiny 2 raid, claiming contest mode number 9 for Deepstone Crypt, and most notably, World's First Garden of Salvation. And just this past weekend, adding another high-tier placement to his already impressive resume, World's Third Gauntlet Onslaught Eclipse. Antivist, thank you for joining me today, man. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me.
Man, it was one of those things. As I saw the post come up from the Destiny Rising account, seeing your name on there immediately resonated with me, and just remembering, because that Garden of Salvation, Deepstone Crypt, for me, that was a very integral time in my raiding life and in career, and just the excitement I felt about the Day 1 raiding thing. So as I'm checking leaderboards and I'm checking things like this, realizing your name, it stands out more than some other names might be on there. And so seeing your name on there and then seeing your name on the Destiny Rising post, man, it made me feel nostalgic. So hopefully that doesn't make you feel old. I know it made me feel old a little bit, like feeling nostalgic about Garden of Salvation, but we were talking about that the other day. So, man, how are you doing?
No, I'm really good, man. It's been a fun few days doing the raid and then the consequent speedrun or contest they held as well.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying Destiny Rising. It's been cool. While Destiny 2 has been going through a bit of a rough spot, it's been nice to have something else that it replicates kind of the game that I've fallen in love with and played for 7 years at this point. So it's really nice.
That's awesome, man. So I'll get a little housekeeping out of the way, and then I want to circle back to something you just said. So guys, no matter where you catch this podcast, please like and subscribe, as it helps the various platforms know that this is something worth sharing to a broader audience. Let me know in the comment section what you think about bonus interview style episodes intermixed with our weekly updates for Destiny Rising, and if we should do more of these. So I really enjoy getting to talk to other people, but I want to hear from you guys to see if this is something you like. So Antivist, you said something right there about the leaderboard speedrun situation. Okay, so I want to, just because it's top of mind, what was that experience like for you? Because you're on the EMEA servers, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, how was that experience over there? Because I know it was an absolute madhouse over here in the North American servers. It was kind of crazy, man. What did it look like for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was pretty similar for us. Okay. I think we ran probably like 20 hours or something over the back 2 days of the actual like competition to try and get as high as we could. I think my team ended up placing 6th on EMEA in the end. But even still, that was still 45 seconds or something behind the team that ended up winning.
Wow.
So it was really competitive the whole weekend.
Yeah.
It was really fun though. It was really fun.
Oh, I'm sure, man. I know that people from my pack mates, they were doing some refreshing, and when they went to bed the night before the leaderboards were going to shut down, they felt really, really comfortable with their time. But I know that they all said they were just stirring in bed and they kept popping it up. I think that's probably the consequence of it being on their phone, and they can just fire the game up real quick and check the leaderboards.
Yeah.
So it was kind of.
I definitely checked the leaderboards several times.
Oh, I'm sure, man.
Before I went to bed on that day.
So can you start me off and let us know, like, if anyone who, they're hearing your name for the first time, they're kind of hearing, obviously, your resume that I've already listed out. Where did you onboard into Destiny? And then where did you get your start with raiding competitively, like on the day one side of things?
Yeah, of course. So I never actually played Destiny 1.
Okay.
I never had a PS4 or an Xbox One as a kid, so I never had access to the game. And I got my first PC when I was 16, and then basically up until Destiny 2 came out in 2017, I was like a Counter-Strike and like Overwatch player.
Okay.
And that's basically where I kind of cut my teeth, as it were, in becoming decent at shooting games. And then when Destiny 2 came out, my friends got me involved. But for the first like year or so of Destiny 2, I was actually like basically a blueberry. I was like really casual. We only played like a couple hours a week, really. I would hop on, do like a couple of strikes, hop off, and I didn't have any links into the endgame scene or anything like that.
Sure.
But when Forsaken came out, I made the decision to try and like put a bit more time into it, and I enjoyed the whole kind of initial part of Forsaken so much that I then decided to try and branch out and find some endgame players, because I'd never raided at that point.
Okay.
I'd never raided across the whole first year, and then I found like a clan, a European clan. Ended up playing with those guys for a bit, and then eventually I moved on to another clan where I met some people who are still my friends to this day, and it was through them that I was able to actually join Ascend.
Okay.
In the start of 2019 was when I joined Ascend.
How had they placed prior to, and what brought you into that group there? Was that something where you had a chance to play with them and kind of come on board there? Or is it something where you were kind of there from the beginning and it kind of all formulated with you in the mix?
Yeah, so it was a little bit of both, I think. So Ascend formed at the start of the Black Armory update. You remember that?
Yep.
And their first raid as a clan together was Scourge of the Past.
Okay.
And they placed fourth.
Really? Wow.
Which was obviously a pretty big deal
Yeah,
back then as well.
absolutely.
So it was really good. I was obviously not in the clan at that point. I was still in one of my smaller clans. But basically, I had a friend I talked about earlier, the friends I made in that other clan.
Yep.
They had links with a guy who was in Ascend already at the time. And basically, it was through him. We were doing like sort of a little bit of speed running and stuff in our other clan, and we were kind of found ourselves wanting more, like wanting to push harder, get faster times, all this. And Ascend, off the back of like getting their fourth place for Scourge of the Past, they were also doing like speed runs and low man challenges and all that kind of thing. And it was basically through this friend connection that I got my way into that, and then got onto doing a few speed runs with them. Ended up that we vibed pretty good, and we got on, and we enjoyed each other's company. We were all pretty decent at the game, and it was just through that I ended up becoming a part of it.
When I was doing research, and it looked like you participated in Crown of Sorrow as well. Is that correct?
That is correct. So Crown of Sorrow was my first proper day one raid experience with a full team and everything. But at the time, the Ascend kind of main team was still like, they were kind of, half of them had stuck together from Scourge, and the other half had kind of found their way on through just like events of the following months, whatever. And it just ended up that it formed in the way that it did. And I ended up on the second team.
Okay.
And then with that second team, we ended up placing 44th, I think it was, in Crown of Sorrow. But I enjoyed that experience so much. Obviously, Crown of Sorrow was very different to any other day one we've ever had.
Oh, for sure.
Given the gauntlet nature of the release, where we had 6 hours to grind as high as possible and then go straight into the raid when we were already drained from grinding the power levels and stuff. But I did enjoy the whole experience so much that it gave me motivation to keep pushing myself.
Sure.
And then off the back of all that, I found myself in a position where I was able to join that main team for Garden. And yeah, it was just the months that followed was really formative in terms of like the relationships I built with those guys and how sort of close knit we were as a team. An inherent advantage that teams that spend a lot of time together have is that camaraderie, I guess, and just being sort of one solid unit is so huge in a day one raid race.
You know, I think that's kind of what I look at with like a redeem type situation. It's like 363 days out of the year or 364 days out of the year. They're on solo journeys. They're not playing and gaming together as friends, building that, at least in recent years, right? Like they're all doing their own thing and people naturally move away from the game. And the reason I call that out specifically is because I had a very similar onboarding point where I remember going to sleep on Friday night when Last Wish came out, waking up the next morning, and I had to do some chores. So I was about to get ready to do the dishes. I turned on our TV and I fired up the Twitch app and I saw that they were still running Last Wish the next morning. And that blew my mind that that was even a possibility, that they could still be working on the thing that I watched them working on the night before. Like I just assumed that people would be doing like repeat runs. And it took me a while to realize that this was their first time and they were on Riven. And they're going crazy, right? Like in they're you can see they're drained and they're so tired and stuff. And I was like, I can't even believe that this is an experience that a game developer was able to provide. This was the first thing that I was interested in. And I was like, okay, I need to figure out how I can get in on that. And so it took me a little bit of time to do that. But it was a similar experience where you just get together, you start playing with people. The best thing you can do and take away from my story and Anti's story is the idea of like, hey, if you find a group of people that you really vibe with, even if you feel like the collective, in my case, the collective skill level is a little lower than you would wish it was, work on that together and get better together and build that strength up rather than jumping from place to place to place and always looking for the next and you end up with people who you do not vibe with, you don't have those things with. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
So continuing on, the other thing I wanted to say, and this is my hot take, but actually Crown of Sorrow is my favorite raid of all time. And it's not the opening. I understand the opening sucks. Like it was bad, but it's the first one I ever low manned. And my actual favorite part of it, to the point I was just making, is that the final encounter was the first experience I ever had in a video game, like a multiplayer video game, where I did not have to speak one word to the person I was playing with to know exactly what we should be doing at any given time. And so learning that level, like having that high level of competency with it in the flow state we were able to get into, when to swap buffs, when to shoot crystals, when to, shoot hands, which hand this person shooting that thing. Man, I desperately wish we could ever get Crown again. I know we never will, but man, I'm so desperate for it. So do you have a special place in your heart with any of the raids?
I mean, I just quickly before I answer that, like that sort of flow state you mentioned is like, and that feeling of sort of wordless efficiency is like a whole big part of the draw of day one raiding and speed running and all these like end game activities you can do in Destiny and similar games. Like it's the sort of satisfaction of being at like that sort of level where you have the ability to just perform and work seamlessly with your teammates or your friends to pull off something that is, at the end of the day, it's something that's difficult. It's something that it takes a lot of effort and often time to get good at. And it's things like that, chasing that sort of that flow state, that feeling of just kind of being one with your teammates and what you're doing, that is part of what makes Destiny so cool for me.
Yeah.
In regards to my favorite raid, obviously, again, you've briefly brought it up already. While most people in the community kind of perceive Garden as one of the sort of weaker raids in the franchise, I'm not so delusional to the point where I think that, oh, Garden's the best raid ever. Like, obviously, it isn't.
Sure.
It's there's some far better raids in the game, but it will always have a special place in my heart because of the world's first, and I will always enjoy playing that raid just because it's part of who I am, I suppose.
So you just brought up Garden of Salvation having a sweet space in your heart. Let's talk now about Garden. Let's talk about it. And here's some of the things I wanted to kind of flesh out first to set the groundwork. So if anyone who doesn't understand what happened with Garden of Salvation, with that raid, let's set the groundwork. Okay, so the first thing to understand is it came out with the Shadowkeep release in 2019. Shadowkeep was Bungie's first foray into solo development of Destiny 2. Last Wish, Scourge of the Past, Crown of Sorrow, all of those were supported by Activision support teams. And so this was their first foray into that. I think from a graphical design, they always hit with the skyboxes and the artwork and stuff inside of Destiny. I don't think that's ever been a question on whether or not they were going to be able to meet that, but they definitely exceeded my expectations with Garden. To this day, I still love just going in there and some more backdrop to this. Not only was this Bungie's first time going in and taking the reins for themselves, but there also were some major overhauls and major new systems that kind of came into play. So the first thing was Armor 2.0. So we went from the original armor system to a new fleshed out, which we've now subsequently lost with Armor 3.0 and the Edge of Fate. But that was a huge change where we received 3 more armor stats, a full rework on how that worked top to bottom. Everyone was grinding out all those armor pieces for the first time, in this new system. The next thing we got was the champion system. So we didn't have champions before that. So we're still figuring out, okay, what's it look like to properly stun and overload champion? I'm thinking opening encounter would have been in play. Second encounter, we're having anti-barrier overloads if you do the final encounter improperly. But I don't even know how that played out for you guys. Thinking through some of these changes that took place with Shadowkeep, do you remember how that felt? Do you think that that's something that would have actually kind of evened the playing field a little more for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think in regards to the armor system, it wasn't like a consideration in the same way that Armor 3.0 was for Desert Perpetual.
Okay.
Because obviously at that time we shifted from the just straight mobility, resilience, recovery to adding discipline, intellect, and strength as substats. Yeah, with only 5 days again before the raid came out. For me, I was playing Warlock, so I was trying to get a decent amount of grenade energy, decent discipline. I think tried to get 80 or something. Obviously having super stat was always good, but it wasn't as much of a concern. The main thing for us, I remember, was they actually shook up the damage meta quite a lot as well. And the main thing they did was they completely removed, if you remember, Lunafaction boots used to auto reload everything.
Yes, they did. Yeah.
And with that being gone, that was the first raid without auto reloading. So that played a huge part in our prep for the raid, because we basically did as much damage testing as we possibly could to find what would work the best when that didn't exist. And that turned out to be, does it remember, the combination of Izanagi's Burden and the Wendigo heavy grenade launcher, which ended up being what we used in the raid.
Yeah, and I mean, that goes into my next question here. What's that actually look like for you for Garden, but also some of the other raids that you did over time? How did your world's first prep develop, and how did you refine that over time as a team?
Yeah, so I think, like I say, at the time it was a lot of, we did a lot of damage testing. I think nowadays as well, it's really important to have sort of a general understanding of the meta and what's good and what isn't. Obviously, you've got to put the time in to chase the guns that are good and everything. That was just as important back then too, although probably to less of a scale, because I think some of the guns were a bit more were less random in the way that you would obtain them. Right, like Wendigo was a quest, and Izanagi was a quest. You didn't have to spend countless hours farming one activity to get a random roll or whatever. Over time, it's kind of developed into more sort of having to do bounty prep, as annoying as it is.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you've got to get to that final column on the artifact. A lot of the prep we did back then was, like I say, it was the damage testing. A lot of it was kind of already what we were doing together as well. Just because the amount of time we were putting into the game at that point, we were playing with each other every day, doing raids every day. It's common nowadays too, but putting ourselves under light for challenges, or putting some stupid restriction on ourselves to make it more difficult than it needed to be, I think over time, as obviously it's funny because as kind of the general Destiny community seems to have slowly kind of shrunk over time, the endgame community, I feel like, it's actually it's almost gotten bigger. I feel like there's such a wealth of information out there nowadays with people like Aegis, people like Tides, and data sort of focused people like Mossy Max. All these people put so much time and effort into giving out and allowing access to the information that people just simply wouldn't have had access to back then, that weren't in these sort of endgame spaces. And I just think it's really cool. It's sort of made prepping for a world's first a lot less sort of gate kept than it used to be, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. The other thing you mentioned in there was getting to the last row of the artifact. I don't even know, did you guys know that was going to be a thing or a consideration going into Garden of Salvation, because that was the first time we ever got the artifact?
Yeah. I honestly don't. I don't think bounty prep was really on our minds much back then either. Because I think, like you say, the artifact was new. I don't think we really knew how much it would sort of have an impact on the game at the time. My memory's a little fuzzy on that.
Yeah,
front.
and it was a long time ago with that. I'm looking here. I was just trying to see some of the different things. Oppressive Darkness causing damage with a Void Grenade adds a weaken.
Now that you've mentioned Oppressive Darkness, I do remember that was definitely a consideration for us. I remember we would talk about Oppressive Darkness a lot and how we would be using an Oppressive Darkness grenade after the tether ran out on bosses or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, we definitely were considering that. So I don't know if it was necessarily bounty prep that got us to that point for the world's first race for that, or if it was just because we put in like 14-hour days every day that week before the raid came out,
sure.
or something.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
Absolutely.
I do remember all 6 of us had anti-barrier on our recluse going into the raid.
Yeah,
and that was incredibly handy when the hobgoblins would like do their little squat thing and make themselves immune, because you could just burn through them while they were doing that.
Let's continue down this aspect, right? So you guys get into the raid and you go through. When did you realize that you were in the competition to win this thing? Like, did you feel like you had a good chance all along? Or was it one of these things where you're like, hey, we're going to set ourselves up for success and then, let the chips lie where they may?
Yeah, I mean, I think we knew going into the raid that like we were one of the maybe arguably better teams out there. But I don't think we never went in with like the expectation that we were going to win or anything. And scouting like wasn't really a thing back then either.
Sure.
So the first time we thought we were winning really was as soon as that boss went down and our clan chat and our DMs started blowing up of other people just going like, oh my God, you guys did it or whatever. Like we weren't watching anyone else. Like we weren't taking, at least I personally didn't take in information from outside of our team.
Man, that's awesome.
So like I knew we were doing well in the raid, but like we spent like what 3.5 hours on the boss or something. So like I didn't expect to win as soon as he died. It was just one of those things where it kind of all came crashing down at once, and we were just like, oh my God.
Yeah, it was
really overwhelming, honestly.
This building in the background. That's crazy that you didn't even know, because I think the concept nowadays, there's no way you wouldn't know nowadays, right? Like somehow, some way you would be notified. And so that was just a different time, right? 6 years ago. We're dangerously close. We're less than 2 weeks away from the 6-year anniversary of the raid coming out. And there's no way in today's game you would know if you beat someone else's time by 20 seconds on an encounter. I had someone come into our chat and tell us when Llama and G Miners cleared their first encounter. I was like, I don't care. For Desert Perpetual, it's like, I don't. Why do I need to know that some other team? It's like, that's just the wealth of knowledge, right? Like we're so interconnected as a community now, and no shade towards those guys. It's just like I'm in the middle of trying to beat this damn Hydra that's kicking my ass, and it's like, why do I need to know that these guys just cleared their encounter, whatever one they were on?
I'm with you on that. I've personally, like, as much as scouting is a necessity nowadays, I've always been kind of against like watching other teams while you play kind of thing. I very much like kind of having a bubble.
How cool would it be if Bungie flew out some of the most competitive teams in the world for a raid race and set the groundwork even more even, where that those teams are not having people feeding them information in the background? Because I feel like at that point, what they could actually do is turn the heat down a little bit. I feel like they've had to crank things up to such an insane amount because there are so many incredible players in the community, but they also have so many external things. I'm not just talking about the cheating. I'm not talking about that, but that is a consideration as well. I don't know. Do you think that could ever work, or do you think I'm a little off on that?
I don't know if it would ever be possible, but that sounds fucking cool, man.
Wouldn't it be so cool?
Like, the first thing that came into my head when you said that was kind of how like Apex Legends and like Fortnite esports is set up, where you kind of have these giant setups with like all these different booths with teams in. And they're all kind of in one big arena together.
Man, it'd be so cool.
Competing. That'd be unreal. But I think the chances of that happening sadly are really low.
Could you? Yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah. That's an alternate timeline, and maybe there's a company right now that's getting into the raid racing side of things that could do something like that in the future. But very, very unlikely. But a couple guys could dream. So.
Cough, Riot Games MMO.
The last thing that I'll say on that subject, there was an event that took place, I think it was last year, where it was, I think, Echo Esports from World of Warcraft The rating team, lots of world
I
first.
think you're right.
Did you see the event where they did Last Wish blind? They did multiple raids blind. They did King's Fall and
Yes.
and stuff,
Yeah, I
but
did
Last
actually.
Wish. That was the closest that I think we get to that.
Yeah, watching the WoW guys from kind of all the different guilds go through the Destiny stuff has been really cool. In the same way that's like it's been cool watching Milo, Mr. Ruffle Waffles, do his thing as well and go through all these raids. I think that's something that's really a bit part of the lifeblood of Destiny is once you've experienced these things, it's watching people or that you like or are friends with go through them and experience what you got to experience. Yeah, and just seeing the kind of enjoyment that they get out of it. I think that's another big part of why Destiny is so cool.
Yeah. Oh man, you're spot on with that. The amount of times that I have conversations with people from my community, I make a lot of content for new and returning players because surprise, surprise, there are a ton of new and returning players to Destiny 2. Even though people say the game is dead and no one's playing it or whatever, there are a lot of issues, but there are a ton of new people that are coming into the community and a lot of people who are cycling out, unfortunately. We have an inflow and an outflow issue here, right? But I say all that to say the amount of times that people come in and they're like, seeing me use a weapon, like some sort of crafted weapon or a raid exotic or something of that sort, and be like, man, I've never got that before. I try to help them shift their mindset and have the concept of, man, you have so much to experience, right? Like that I wish I could experience again for the first time. So I think you nail it right on the head with, Milo coming in and the conversations that they had and his, his blind, what'd they do? Like blind master Salvation's Edge or something like that. Like that was insane.
Yeah, and I think it took them, 80 something hours?
It was
absurd.
Insane, dude. Insane. And their just willingness to do it and put it all on the line and then turn around and try to get the Desert Perpetual clear. And I believe they did. But it was after contest mode had closed out. They kept the instance open. So it was beyond the 48-hour time period, but they kept the instance open and had people come in there and make sure that they didn't lose it and stuff like that.
World's last, baby.
World's last. So, all right. So we talked a lot about the past. Anything else you want to say about the Garden of Salvation side of things, before we continue on?
I don't think there's anything major, just more that like the experience I had with that raid and the sort of euphoria you have when you win is the reason that I'm still here today. Is the reason I still take part in every raid race. Because like, even if I never win another raid race, like coming close to that feeling when you get that clear, there's nothing like it you can do in gaming, in my opinion. And I want to keep experiencing that. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, that's great, man. So let me ask you this. We talked about this a little earlier as well. What was your life like after that completion? Did anything change for you? Did expectations mount? Right. So we had Garden of Salvation. The next one was Deepstone. Is that correct? Yeah, Deepstone and then Vault of Glass
correct,
to follow after that. What did that look like? The next raids that came after Garden of Salvation.
Yeah. So for Deepstone, we kept the team together.
Okay.
And I don't think we went quite as heavy on prep for Deepstone, but we were still playing the game a hell of a lot at that point. Obviously, we ended up with coming 9th place, I think it was, with my team. There was the other team in our clan, or one of the other teams in our clan, actually placed 3rd. For that one, they did better than we did.
Wow. Okay.
Which was really cool for them. But yeah, the pressure, there's definitely like an element of pressure, but like, I think the way I've always tried to view it is getting world's first is a bonus. At the end of the day, I'm there to do my best and just clear the raid as fast as I possibly can with my friends. So placing well is obviously great. Getting world's first, amazing. But it's about the experience for me personally, and it was always like that in the raids following. Yeah, so I think we were kind of expectant of ourselves, at least in Deepstone, to get close to first again, because we considered ourselves, maybe other people didn't, or up for debate, whatever. But we thought we were good enough to keep that level to some extent.
Sure.
And yeah, we ended up coming 9th, which was fine. I think we weren't super happy. We kind of wanted in our hearts, we really wanted a top 5, but it is what it is. And then I think after that was when some things changed around with some of the people in our team that just weren't that interested in the game or wanted to move on to different things. And so the team changed after that.
Gotcha.
So we only actually did those 2 raids together as a 6. Although the team before that we did Crown was 5 of the same that ended up doing Garden. So they basically -1 +1, and I joined that team.
I see.
So they did Crown together as well without me, and then we did the following 2 raids together.
Do you know where they placed on Crown?
They actually placed 9th on Crown as well.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, they did.
That's awesome.
So it was funny for the following raid. I think Vogue, you said.
Yep.
I think we named our team "Please Not 9th" because they had 2 of the last 3 raids they placed 9th.
That's funny.
So they did not want to place 9th.
It's top 10 though, man. Top 10 is not something to turn your nose up, and I know you wouldn't. Like,
no, of course
I can tell
not.
your sense of that with it as well. So, I will put it out there because I mean it's public knowledge. You got it on a raid report and stuff like this. So, Vaulted Glass was number 24. Number 24, still very impressive. And with that being a compression, right? Like, so you do the normal raid first time, and then you turn around and do the challenge mode of it. How much prep for Vaulted Glass, having not played Destiny 1, did you do?
So yeah, I was actually one of the minority in my team that hadn't played the original, I think. So I did as much reading up as I could.
Okay.
To kind of learn the mechanics.
You guys didn't fire up. You didn't hop on an account and try old Vaulted Glass. Interesting.
No. I know a lot of people did do that, but we didn't do that in the end.
That's funny.
Yeah. Also, I think I would have the opinion that Vault might actually be the worst I've ever played in a day 1.
Really?
It was the only day 1 where I've been on Titan, and I was not having a good time. I felt like I was playing really bad on that raid.
What played into you switching over to Titan from Warlock?
I think it was just, I think at the time Bubble was really important, if I remember correctly. And also just like, I think I mentioned the team changed up a bit. I think with the personnel change, it required 1 or 2 people to shift their roles slightly to plug the gaps, as it were.
Gotcha.
And I think I ended up saying, oh, I'll take the Titan hit. Because before I've been like a diehard Warlock main since sort of joining Ascend, basically.
Okay.
But before that, I was a Titan player. So I felt I was more equipped to go into that, but
I see.
Yeah, it ended up not going that well, in my opinion.
I actually had never done any D1 raids either. I played probably a maximum of like 300 hours of Destiny 1, but I didn't have anyone to raid with back in the day there. So, I don't necessarily want to hit every single raid. Are there any other day 1s between that Vaulted Glass time and then more recently, Desert Perpetual? Are there any of those that stood out to you that were highlights, lowlights in between that you'd like to point out?
Yeah. So I think those that have good enough memory will actually remember Vow of the Disciple was actually both a highlight and a lowlight for our team.
Okay.
Because we were front running the entire raid.
Really?
I think we got to Rolk first. And then there was a very famous clip of us wiping on the final stand of Rolk.
Oh my gosh.
And on that run, if we had killed him, it would have been world's first. And I think literally 15 minutes later on their next pull, Elysium killed him.
Wow.
And got world's first. And we ended up finishing 26th. We ended up being stuck in there for a couple more hours. So that was, looking back on it, disappointing for us, obviously.
Sure.
But I also, at the same time, I think it plays an argument for, I talked before about like kind of having a little bit of a bubble when you do raid racing, because we didn't know that was, like, obviously we were disappointed that we didn't kill him and we died on final stand, but we didn't know that we choked world's first. I think if we knew that we'd choked world's first in that moment, I think we would have been completely mentally destroyed.
Oh, I'm sure, man. I was actually going to ask if that's what dropped you from the potential world's first to 26th, if you found out and what that comparison would have been, but obviously you jumped ahead of me.
Yeah. So I think it was obviously the wiping on the final stand definitely had an impact on us and was probably the reason we took another couple of hours to kill him.
Certainly.
But I think if we knew that we'd choked world's first, it would have been even longer, maybe.
Man.
So yeah,
that's brutal, man. So what? Take me to that mindset, because I'm sure I didn't even realize that was you guys, but I do know the story of Vow and Elysium stuff. I think we all do. Anyone who's in touch with Destiny rating, things of that sort. Let me ask you this: how did that affect you guys as a clan when it came to future runs, setting up teams, and moving on beyond Vow?
I think it's kind of hard to say, to be honest. I think following Vow, that was when we had a little bit of a personnel change in the clan.
Okay.
I think a few of the people that I was used to playing with a lot began to play the game a bit less. So it was kind of from Vow until present day, really, that my raid teams haven't been super consistent. There's been a decent amount of change. Like, I've been playing with some of the similar people, but I've never done a raid with the same team twice since Deepstone.
Okay.
It's been different every time, but definitely more shakeups started happening after Vow for me. And that's probably plays a decent role in why my placements have been less good recently, which it is what it is. You
Sure.
know, the raiding scene's incredibly competitive nowadays. I don't feel any shame in not placing super high for some of the most recent raids. I'm just glad I still get to take part, to be honest, and get the clears, really.
Yeah, I mean, you cleared contest mode Desert Perpetual, man, and that's
Yeah,
that's
we
an
did.
insane thing that not many people could. Well, let me back up. Many people could say they had. Then it took a third party coming in and being like, "Hey, most of these are not real clears," and then Bungie's like, "Oh yeah. Sorry, you guys figured that out. All right, here, let's do something about that." Obviously, there's nothing to be ashamed about. I think things roll through over time, as they come and go. And like you even mentioned before, it's just the conversation around like personnel changes, team changes, and you're going to perform the best with the people the best, without having to verbally indicate, hey, I'm moving here, I'm going to do this action. Something as simple, for me, that I always joke with some of the people I play with the most is sometimes I'll be like, man, I can't not stand when we don't play together for a while. Me and my buddy Spartan, when we play together, because when we don't play together for a while, we get out of sync with each other and we will prioritize the same enemies. I will need a melee to heal, and he will snap melee just before I get there, and it explodes, and I don't get the proc, and then I'll die. And I'm like, man, you didn't need to do that. He didn't need it for healing. He just was, he's just clearing ads, things like that. But there's something about playing with your team consistently and refining those skills over time and just knowing like where they're going to be, because you can really build that up. That's a skill you can build up as a team. And so you indicating that the team had rotated over time, you're swapping other people in. I'm sure they were great players. I'm sure they were high quality players. Some may have even been better than some players you had competed with in the past. It's just one of those things where the chemistry cannot be overstated.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one thing we had going for us in VOW as well. Like, despite the team being so, there was 4 of the original Garden team in that VOW team, and we had 2 people from our clan who joined us. That team, I think that might be the most prep we've ever done, or I've ever done personally for a day one raid. We were playing together so much before VOW. That's why I kind of look back on that raid, and I always feel a little bit sad when I think about it, because I think we played so damn good in that raid, and it was just really unfortunate at the end. But again, I think that, like you say, with the synergy and everything, our performance up until that choke was absolutely a byproduct of the time we spent playing together and building that synergy.
How many times did you get back to final stand in VOW before you got the clear?
I think it was maybe the next one.
Like next time you got to final stand?
The next time we got to final stand, I think, was the time we killed him.
Okay.
We spent, I think, the hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever it was, before we killed him, I think was us just repeatedly dying and losing reses on that top platform, just getting smashed by Rogue.
Was that the hardest part, just figuring out how to navigate that top platform?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. That was it was something that if you had maybe experience in other MMOs, you might have been slightly better equipped for it, but for Destiny, obviously that was completely new as a sort of dynamic for a boss encounter. And I think it was awesome. Like, Rolk as a fight was amazing on day one, but it was definitely the hardest part, figuring out how to kind of manage that and keep everyone alive.
Well, honestly, man, just good on you for even being able to perform at that level, because just knowing from my perspective, all of them were insane challenges that I look back super fondly on, but just knowing, hey, this is out of reach for me and my squad at the time and stuff. So seeing you guys be able to do that and seeing teams consistently over time perform at a high level, I think that you give a lot of others something to strive for.
I appreciate that, man.
All right, man, we've talked about the past a ton, but let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the present and the future. The majority of this is going to be the past, but I do want to touch on where are you with your current relationship with the Destiny franchise? How is that, and what does your weekly or daily gaming look like with Destiny?
Yeah, so I definitely don't play the game anywhere near as much as I used to. With kind of, as the time's gone on, people putting the game down, moving clans, whatever. I don't sort of have the same wealth of people to draw from, to play with as much nowadays. And also I don't have the same drive to grind the game as much as I used to, for sure.
Sure.
But it's also in part to just there being like kind of a bit less to do in the game recently, I felt like, as well. In terms of like my relationship with the franchise, I still absolutely love it. I'll still probably like get a Destiny tattoo or something one day. I will probably play the game until it falls dead into the ground. I love it too much. Maybe I'm addicted. Maybe I'm delusional. Who knows? I would say I don't think I have the same level of like distaste or like resentment towards the game as some people do. Like I understand, obviously, it's disappointing when the game's bad, and obviously it's been sort of one hit after another recently with how things have been going.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm kind of the mindset where I'm never gonna force myself to play while it's bad. I'm happy to just kind of sit here and wait until things are better and hop back on it, and then I'll put my time into it. Because I found recently as well that's been a better way for me to enjoy the game anyway.
Sure.
Like for example, I took pretty much all of episode Revenant off the game,
Yep.
and then when I came back for episode Heresy, I had an absolutely great time playing the game and just doing everything that I'd missed. And I think that that's just a healthy way to play the game as well nowadays. Like I feel like if you try and squeeze everything you can out of the game every day, it's like getting blood from a stone now.
Yep.
You know, I don't think it's quite the same as it used to be. As long as there's still raid races happening in Destiny, I will be playing the game. That's just how it's gonna go.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. Let's talk now about Destiny Rising. You guys placed third, but I didn't recognize many of the names, if any of the names that you were doing Destiny Rising with. So can you explain to me what is your experience with Destiny Rising up to this point? Like, did you play the alpha and beta? And then how did you find your team that you ended up raiding with this past weekend?
Okay, yeah, sure. So I actually didn't play a single minute of the alpha or beta.
Okay.
When Destiny Rising got announced, obviously I saw it was a mobile game, and I thought, oh, that looks really cool. I'm never going to get to play it. Like my mobile isn't like a super high end one. I don't
Sure.
have like the newest iPhone or the newest Samsung or whatever, so I don't ever expect to sort of play like these kind of high intensity mobile games on my phone and stuff. And obviously that all completely changed when I found out that they had like full emulator support, and
Yeah.
even like Destiny Rising endorsed emulator support.
Uh-huh.
Like the Moomy player, you can download it from the website. So that immediately like changed everything. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm gonna play it then. I already have some experience with sort of gacha style games.
Okay.
I've played like a couple of the Hoyoverse titles, and obviously I'm a huge Destiny fan, so it's a no-brainer. Like I'm gonna play the game, but I did go in relatively blind into Destiny Rising. I'd seen some of the promo stuff. I'd seen like what Gwyn looked like. I just kind of picked it up and ran with it.
So with that, you get in and you hear about the fact that they're doing their version of contest mode, Gauntlet, Onslaught, Eclipse. What did that process look like for you? How did you get linked up with the pack that you're running with in Destiny Rising? How much have you been playing together leading into last week's raid race? What has that experience been like?
The guys I'm playing with are acquaintances, friends from the Destiny 2 space.
Okay.
I've known quite a lot of them for a while. I wouldn't say I'm like super close with a couple of them. Like I was relatively like new sort of teammates that I've been playing with, but I've known of them for a long time. So like Leonis, who was streaming, he's been in the endgame scene in an adjacent clan to Ascend called Euros. He's been playing Destiny 2 for a long time as well. And then two of the others in the team, Estrella and Rads, they've been in another Destiny 2 endgame clan called Augural for a long time. And we were always sort of pretty close with those two clans in Ascend, and we're pretty social with them and stuff. So I've known of like most of these guys for a while. And basically it just ended up that they happened to be some of the people that I knew that were playing Destiny Rising on the EU server. Because unfortunately, obviously with Destiny Rising, there's not a lot of cross server play.
Sure.
It doesn't happen in the same way that it does with Destiny. And like a lot of my Destiny friends live in the US, and that I can't play with them in Destiny Rising.
Yeah.
So I had to look within my sort of EU pool of people that I knew. And it just so happened that these guys were the ones that had a spot free for me. And then going into the raid, I think we literally did one evening we went through like Gauntlet, Onslaught, Monolith Fall, like the heroic version or whatever as a team, just making sure we were kind of vibing and knowing the mechanics and stuff. But that was all the prep we did. I think it's safe to say that we as a team heavily lent on our experience in Destiny 2 to get us through the Destiny Rising raid.
Interesting. Did you guys hit any hangups during day one as you were pushing through, or did you just kind of say, hey, we're just going to turn our brain off and just go game?
I wouldn't say we like hit anything particularly that like stopped us. Second encounter was definitely the one that took the most time. We had what's being referred to within our friendship group as the battery incident.
Okay.
Where someone dropped the battery to swap it with a teammate inside of one of the laser fields.
Oh no.
And immediately killed all three people on that side.
Oh yeah. Instantly.
Most of the wipes that we had on second encounter were just down to silly mistakes.
Gotcha.
I managed to figure out the sort of 1, 2, 3, 4 code mechanic pretty quickly. I think it only took me like 1 or 2 runs to fully understand that. And then obviously we knew about the battery stacking mechanic from the previous encounter. And after that, it was just doing the mechanics the same way as normal, basically, right?
Yep.
So yeah, it's just basically stupid mistakes that cost us time on that.
Gotcha.
That encounter is probably where we prevented ourselves from winning with stuff like that silly wipe or people entering the code wrong or whatever, right? But yeah, that's the only real point that we felt like we were being stopped, I think.
Yeah.
The other encounters went pretty smoothly, I'd say, and kind of once we figured out the extra mechanics were pretty quickly solved.
Yeah.
I think we spent the least amount of time on boss. I think we wiped maybe twice before we killed him.
Yeah, even less optimal teams that I've run with since then on Eclipse. I mean, we're still one phase in. That the boss I think they tweaked the right levers with this, and one of my clanmates, they mentioned the fact that it feels like they really went in and they just wanted to make sure everyone had a role in a job to do. Like everyone was going to get involved in some capacity, whereas normal Monolith Fall is a situation where you can just have one or two people, kind of carry you and get you through most situations.
Exactly. I think that's always like the sign of a well-designed raid is when everyone has to be involved.
It still blows my mind, man, that this is something that's for a mobile platform. Most people that I know are playing on emulator, but it does run mostly well on phones, depending on what you have and being able to do that. And you can raid. You can do raids. You can do Gauntlet Blitz. You can go in and do shifting gates. You can do all these like larger activities with a lot of people in there. And so, okay, I have two more questions for you before we wrap up, because we've gone far longer today than I told you we would. I've so appreciated our conversation. So
it's all good, man. I've enjoyed chatting.
So my first question is, what improvements or what changes would you like to see to the day one raid experience inside of Destiny Rising in the future? Were there any pain points? Were there any things that you think, hey, we need to kind of like work on rounding this out or smoothing this off?
Yeah, for sure. I think obviously it's the obvious one, but I think it's arguable that the race was maybe a bit short. I remember they put out a poll, like Nettie's, the Destiny Rising official account did on Twitter, I think, or something, the day before the raid, and people asking how long they thought it was going to take.
I did see that, yeah.
I think the options were like under 3 hours, between like 3 and 4 hours, and more than 4 hours or something. And obviously World's First was like in almost exactly an hour.
Yeah.
And I think a big way that they would be able to push that up a bit is take a leaf out of Bungie's book and just make them blind. Make them blind.
Yep.
Just have it be the first time you experience the raid is in the contest mode. I think many people would agree with me that that's the best way to experience raids, while having the kind of prestige mode kind of element is cool and all. I don't think anyone would complain if they had the raid drop on that day in hard mode with all the new mechanics and stuff, and people got to figure it out in a true sort of raid race style. I think regarding like mechanics and stuff, I think what they did with like the means they have, I think it's great. I think if they are able to like build on what they did in Eclipse and like improve on it, I think the game will be in a great state raid wise. Like I think there's a lot of potential in Destiny Rising with the sort of parts of the Destiny universe that kind of aren't explored and all that to put together some like really cool things. So yeah, honestly, I think they didn't do a lot wrong. Obviously, maybe refining some mechanics like some of the stuff in second encounter, which could be like brute forced, or like the people inside the rooms in the second encounter when you go through the portal. They didn't really have to do a lot outside of read the symbols off if you were in a voice chat.
Yeah.
I understand that like they have the consoles inside of the rooms to convey the symbols to the outside, with the idea that kind of people are on mobiles and maybe aren't able to get into voice chat. But I don't know. I feel like in a raid setting, maybe in that sort of level of difficulty, you should kind of be almost expecting that and have it so that the things that can be done in the encounter are required. Because in almost every run I've done since then, the people inside have done nothing but read the symbols. They've never even interacted with the consoles inside the rooms, you know?
Same, yeah.
But yeah, I'd say that's kind of where I'd sit on that.
Okay. Well, man, I appreciate your time so much, and I appreciate the fact that you're making this work, fitting your schedule, and then just taking some time to walk down memory lane with me and then talk about Destiny Rising.
I appreciate you having me on. It's been a really fun conversation. I hope people learned something, found part of my story interesting.
Yeah. Thank you so much for watching. If you're still hanging out, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Let me know in the comments, did you like this? We're always working to get better, tweak it, and do all this. And then until next time, be blessed, y'all.